Okay, well, I think we'll just go ahead and start. Like I said, there's probably a couple people that are going to be a little bit late, so they'll come in and we'll address that when they come in, get the packet and everything to them. Welcome to the first week of our Modern Safety Grow Group. What we're going to do here is we're going to have some discussions on different ways that we can make sure that we and our families are more secure in the modern world. What does that mean? I mean, basically it just means we want to make sure that we take the proper precautions to make sure that we're one, situationally aware, which means that we are cognizant of what's going on around us and get some skills that we can analyze and look at situations and or people and figure out, hang on. It'll be a funny one for the video. So that we can, just live more secure lives. I mean, you may live in a good neighborhood, you may live in a bad neighborhood, you may have to go into bad neighborhoods, you may have to go into good neighborhoods, it doesn't matter where you are. I mean, we see in the news just the way the modern world is, you could be going to a concert and have things you have to deal with that you wish you wouldn't have to. But needless to say, it never hurts to be, aware and prepared. So first off, we've got situational awareness. Again, situational awareness is just being cognizant and present of what's going on around you, whether that be where you're at, the people that are around, those kind of things. So we want to make sure that, we start, honing our skills in that way. So one of the first things we have down here to talk about is recon. But before we get to that and a situational awareness, there are some people in this room who don't know each other, probably have never met. So I'd like to go around and just everybody say like your first name and then maybe something interesting about yourself. So we'll start over here.
Start with me.
Yep.
I'm Eric, for much of everyone but this gentleman here, so, something interesting, I don't know.
Well, I don't know you that well, so pretty much anything you tell me about yourself is going to be interesting to me, so. Stuff you like to do that maybe is not common.
I don't know, nothing uncommon, I'm an outdoors type guy though. Like,
Okay.
Anything outdoors, fishing, hunting, things like that, camping, just that kind of stuff.
Well, that's awesome. Love it. Thanks.
Yes.
Did you say your last name?
He said first
No,
name.
you just first
Oh,
names are
first
fine.
name?
Yeah.
That's a
Okay.
safety thing.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. You don't know what I'm going to do with that.
The last four of your social.
Yeah. Yeah. Only. Redact the rest of it.
My name is Kara, and something about myself that people don't know. Well, some people might know it because it kind of came up earlier this week, but my dad's from Ecuador, so I'm actually half Hispanic, but don't really look it, so there's that.
Cool.
Fun fact.
My name is Andy. If you want to stay on my good side, meet me at Roosters.
Okay.
I don't like roosters, so I guess we're on your good side.
Yeah, definitely.
I love Roosters.
Definitely. Okay.
I'm
Jen?
Shanda, and I have 3 days till vacation.
Woo!
Yay.
Love
That's
that.
all I can think about.
Jealous.
Nothing wrong with that. Nothing wrong with that.
I'm Kyle, and I've grown 4 extra adult teeth in my adulthood.
Wow.
What? Said something interesting.
That's interesting.
That is interesting.
I'm Derek. Don't have that much interesting. I'm a business owner, firearms enthusiast, and family man.
Oh, that's very interesting. So, musician, yeah. We could go on. He's a little humble about himself, but that's all right. Yeah, we'll just get right into it. Situational awareness. One of the first things you want to do is say you're going someplace and maybe you've never been there before. Maybe you want to do a little recon. So, bugs are killing me. So, the library. Most of us are from this area, so we know this library fairly well. But if you don't, probably one of the first things that you want to do when you first get to a place you've never been is kind of scope the place out. And by that I mean you want to figure out, okay, I mean one of the first things I do is I'm like, okay, where's the bathroom? Just in case I need it. I don't want to be running around if an emergency arises and I'm taking 5 minutes to find the restroom. But one of the more important things for this is that you want to make sure that you know where all the exits and the entrances are. So just off the top of your head, does everybody know where the main entrances are? In the library?
Know that one.
So you know that one.
Yeah.
So that is the main one. But there's also one, if you come out here and you make a left and you go straight down, there's one straight ahead of you. Plus there's also a staff entrance back in here. And if you're familiar with the outside of the building, you know there's doors in the back part. So there's definitely an exit on that side. So one of the first things you definitely want to do is make sure that you understand, oh, and there's one down here too. Okay, just point out down that way. There's another exit. So you want to know that in case something happens on that part of the building and they're saying, hey, you guys need to get out for whatever situation. It could be a hostile attack, it could be a fire, you know, obviously if it's a tornado, you want to figure out where the tornado safe areas are, which is more likely in the middle of the building, obviously away from glass and that kind of stuff. Also, if you've never been to a place before, what part of town is it in? If it's in a part of town you don't know, you know, I mean, is it close to a freeway? Those kind of things. Do you know, like, if you have to get out of wherever you're at, what's the quickest way to get out of there without using your GPS? So that you know, like, okay, if I'm on this street and I go down this way for a mile, I'll definitely hit 670, 270, 70, 71, whatever it is, just somewhere that you know that you can get out of wherever you're at quickly. Exit plans. You want to make sure that whenever you go into a situation, like right now, if we have to get out of here, do you know how to get out of wherever you're at quickly and efficiently and safely? The other thing is that doors are not your only exit or entry. If you have to, windows, use a chair, use whatever. Some people have pocket knives and on the end of them they've got those glass break things. I mean, if you do what you got to get out of whatever. So don't be afraid to use a window if you have to. Also a thing, restaurants. Most people don't think about it, but if you're in a restaurant and you need to get out and say most of your main exits are blocked, the kitchen almost always has an exit out the back. They normally take the garbage out through the back or they have an employee entrance in the back. Most big retailers have employee exits and entrances in the back. So like we were talking about earlier with the staff door, that's right across here. If you're out there and the quickest way to go out is through the staff door and out the back, so be it. So just be aware of where all your entrances and exits are. Third thing we want to talk about is wherever you are or whatever you're doing, wherever you're going, always be confident. Now, whether or not you feel internally confident, you want to give off a presence of confidence. So when you walk into a room or you're leaving a room or you're going to a place you don't know, the last thing you want to be perceived at is the victim mentality. You don't want to go into a situation where people think, well, you know, I'm not going to be, how you doing? Even if that's the way you feel inside, if you have social anxiety, any of that kind of stuff, that's fine. But keep those shoulders back, be confident, look people in the eye. You know, you don't have to stare them down, you know. You don't have to, get all, but you definitely want to not, give yourself the perceive that, like, I'd rather not be here, I just don't, because that's when, I'm not going to say you're going to get picked on, but if there is a weak link in the room, someone who's looking to take advantage of that kind of thing is going to look for a person that doesn't look confident. Most criminals don't want to go after somebody who's confident or they think they're going to have a problem with, because who wants the hassle? If they want your car, they want your money, they want something that's easy. They don't want a conflict, they just want your money. So if you look like, you're not confident, not paying attention, more likely than not, you're going to be the one that they're going to target. And then that kind of transitions us into reading people. So body language is a big thing. A lot of people know a lot of the common tells about body language, and those are things that you can do to learn, you're not going to be, like a psychologist or a psychiatrist. You're not going to be able to look at somebody and say, you're not going to be Sherlock Holmes and go, well, based on the watch you wear and the shoes you have on and the glasses you have, that, I know that you're like, a master criminal or you fly airplane. I'm not saying that, but most people, if they're standing around and they're doing this, that's a defensive posture. They don't feel comfortable, or they're bored. But the combination of what their face looks like plus their arm posture, how they sit. If you sit in a chair all kind of upright and all uptight like this, they're going to know you're uncomfortable. You can read that in other people too, how they're doing that. If someone is having an issue or you think they're gonna be a problem, you can tell how they're reacting in the room. Are they darting around with their eyes? Are they looking at things? Are they sweating? Hey, come on in. There's an extra packet right here next to Shanda, and I've got one here too and a pen, so you guys can. Oh, there's one over here too. So, then you guys. We're still on the first page of that. If you want, we can pull a table around too, if you want one, or you can, however you want to do it.
Sorry
Yeah.
for the disruptions.
No, you're fine. So basically, we went through the first four of page one. So we're talking about situational awareness and reading people is what we're talking about right now. So we're talking about, how you can look at somebody and tell whether they're confident or not, or if they're defensive. If someone has a tendency to want to do somebody harm, a lot of times if they're trying to get up the courage to do that, you can tell if you're in a room like this and you're not doing anything and you see that person standing over there by themselves and they're perspiring, okay, either you're sick or you're up to something. I mean, obviously you can't tell unless you engage with that person, but it's one of those things where you can start going, okay, there's something up. So I'm going to make sure I keep an eye on that person. So as you're doing that, okay, that person is looking a little fishy. So if they're there by that exit, okay, I know there's an exit back here. So if something goes on, I know that I can grab whoever I need to protect and get them out the door. But I'm going to go this way. So that goes back to our exit plan strategy. So you're always kind of thinking of those things. And when you first start doing these things, a lot of times you'll find yourself intentionally doing it. It's like anything else. You want to kind of build a muscle memory with it. So you intentionally start sitting there. When you go to a restaurant, you sit down and you go, okay, I know where the exits are. I know where the bathroom is. That guy looks like he's an issue. That lady looks like she's going to go crazy here in a minute. So I know that since they're here and there's an exit back here, if I have to take these people out of this building, then I know I'm going out this exit over here. Another good thing is communication, especially with families. Spouses talk to each other, figure out, okay, if something happens, if you're going to have some type of defensive weapon, whether it be lethal or non-lethal, okay, who's going to be the main person that handles that? And what is the strategy of getting people out? Is one person going to make sure that the other two, say it's a family of three, is the one person going to make sure they cover the other two, and who's in charge of getting to the car and, that kind of stuff. So you kind of get that going on amongst yourselves, figure out what your best practice, your best strategy, your best plan is, and then work it from there. Okay. Now an important thing a lot of people don't take into consideration when they go to a restaurant is you basically, for the most part, get sat where they put you. Some places you can sit wherever you want. So if you can sit where you want, then you always want to kind of pick a place that you're back. Like if this is the restaurant, I don't want to be sitting here eating my food and having all you back here because I can't see what's going on. So I don't know what is going on. But if I have a choice, I can sit over here. I can see all my exits, I can see all of you, I can see everything going on. So you now are aware of everything that's going on in the room. So you don't have to be staring people down, but at least, as you're glancing around, you can say, okay, everything looks cool, everything looks kosher, or you know what, I think it just doesn't feel right. So you want to make sure you do that. If you get sat by an establishment where you don't get to choose, then you want to try and, if I have to sit here and there's tables back here, okay, there's 3 or 4 people back here, but there's all of you over here, I want to sit this way. I still want to be looking at the entrances and the exits and the majority of the people.
I do that, but it's more for people watching purposes.
Yeah, which is fine too. But see, that's the thing is for some people who are people watchers, they tend to take to this a little easier and a little quicker just because you're already kind of aware of people anyway, so you're already watching people. A lot of times what the people watchers miss is the doorways. You are more about the people and less about the environment, whereas people that are introverted like me are less about the people and more about the environment. So then if you get 2 people, like say you're a people person and I'm the introvert, you're checking the people out and I'm watching the environment, and then, it's like, you tell me, you know what, that person over looks like they're kind of sketchy. So then, okay, that's cool. And it's like, I was noticing that door keeps going opening and closing and it shouldn't be. So there's something fishy going on over there. So, we can play off of that and say, just communicate. If you think something's fishy and you need to leave, one of the things that people tend to not do is trust their gut. If your gut is telling you that something ain't right, don't, I mean, carry some cash with you if you're at a restaurant, and if the bill's, $20, then throw $20 down and say, I gotta get out of here, just because it doesn't feel right, something's not right. There's nothing wrong with that. People might think you're crazy, but I'd rather them think I'm crazy and leave someplace than to be someplace where something's going down and I didn't want to be part of it. Or somebody in my family is, injured or killed or whatever. So it's not what you, not what you want to do. So there's that. So now we're going on to page 2. It's what I call travel unpredictability. Now this isn't for everybody, but this is something that I tend to do just out of practice. And it's something to keep in mind, if you're traveling, like say you have to travel a lot for work, say you go to different cities, and you have to stay there for a couple of days. If people tend to know that my company always puts the people from out of town up in this hotel, you may get people that try to I can take advantage, because I know they have laptops and all this high-end electronics and stuff with them, and I know they always go to this place, so I'm going to start following them. So you may have issues like that, or it may just be that unfortunately you're in a situation where you have a crazy ex-boyfriend that keeps following you where you're going, or your crazy ex-girlfriend that's stalking you and won't leave you alone, something like that. Travel unpredictability. When I go to work, I never travel the exact same route to work more than 2 days in a row. That way, if something happens and they say, okay, I'm going to sit here and I'm going to try and ambush you somewhere, if I take Broad Street down to, Hamilton Road, because I work at one of the car dealerships there by the airport, I may instead take, I could take one route to say, okay, I'm going to take 270 to Broad Street to Hamilton, and then the next day I may take, Main Street all the way down to Hamilton and go all the way up that way. And, it's just one of those things where, vary the way that you go to different places. Even when you take walks, like say you walk around your neighborhood, you don't always, if you're going for, distance, just use the GPS on your phone and say, okay, when I get to a mile, I know that's when I'm done. A lot of times, you'll know, well, if I go around this block twice, that's a mile. Well, instead of going that block, do a different block. Just kind of varying your travel so that you're unpredictable, so that if somebody can't, go, well, you're such a creature of habit, I know that every day at 6 o'clock you go and, run your 4 miles in this park or on this trail. Just vary it up. That's what we're going to do there. Self-defense. I'm an advocate of always having some form of self-defense on you at all times. Whatever you're most comfortable with is what you should do, carry, or use. At 10 years old, I started training martial arts, so I've got plenty of hand-to-hand combat training. So even without anything weapon-wise, I feel fairly confident in what I'm able to do as far as defending myself or my family. Some people, depending on, you may have some kind of a physical ailment or deficiency that prevents you from maybe exercising as much as you'd like, so then, maybe you can't run. For example, my friend Andy here told me that he hurt his foot and he's going through rehab, so if something happened, he's most likely not going to be able to run away.
Don't y'all leave.
And if I had known that before this, I would have walked him from the parking lot in, and I will walk him to his car tonight. That's fine with me. But because he knows that, someone may say, hey, I noticed this man's walking gingerly. He probably can't run away, so he might be a good candidate for me to mug tonight. Well, knowing that, normally when he's perfectly physically healthy, he may have a boxing background. Some guy comes up to him, he's pop, drops him 2 shots, he's fine, but he can't run, he can't move like he used to, so now he might think, okay, well, I'm going to get me a taser or a pepper spray. It's just something that will give me an advantage so that I can make my escape. The reason that I bring up carry only what you're comfortable with is a mistake that a lot of people think is that, well, I'm just going to go out and get a CHL and a concealed handgun license, and I'm going to carry that, and yeah, while that may make you feel comfortable, you have to realize that takes a certain level of responsibility and training, And you have to understand that if something escalates to a point where you're having to use that weapon, you may have to take someone's life, and not everybody can do that. Not everybody has the will to take another person's life, even in defense of themselves. So the last thing that you want to do is introduce a weapon or some kind of device into a situation that could potentially be taken away from you because you're not willing to use it. So if that is not something that you are 100% confident that you can do, then don't carry a gun or a knife. I mean, there are plenty of other things, tasers, stun guns, all that kind of stuff, just whatever you're most comfortable with. But if you do decide that you want to carry something more lethal, definitely please get training. And then train regularly. Don't just say, okay, well, I got my concealed license and I went to the range and they had me shoot a target and I kept it on the white sheet of paper. I'm good, so I'll just carry it when I need it and just use it whenever. You know, same thing with a knife. Some people think, well, I'll just carry a knife. That's fine. You know, I'll flash that and people are like, ooh, you got a knife, I'm going to run away. Well, okay, if you're going to carry a knife, you know, I mean, you got to get close to somebody and they may have a knife too. They may have a gun, so, you know, and just the fact that you have a knife does not mean that you know how to use a knife. So again, if you want to do those kind of things, please get properly trained in them and practice. Week 2, and 3, we're gonna do a little bit of striking and kicking, so we're gonna learn kind of like the basics of those kind of things, and then self-defense in week 3. Those weeks are not meant to completely train you. They are meant to kind of give you an idea of what types of things are out there, and then I would encourage anybody that likes that kind of thing to find a school or a teacher or a person that is proficient and then practice regularly with them. We're at a certified school. And those things are important to find, that you find somebody that matches your philosophy and your physical ability. So don't just walk into the first Taekwondo school that's down the street or the first Kung Fu school that's, you know, closest to your work. You know, if that works out, that's great, but if those styles don't mesh with you or your schedule and you can't get trained the way you want to get trained and it doesn't mesh with you, and some of those things just don't work out. I mean, nothing against Kung Fu, a lot of that stuff I get all flustered about it. But I was trained in more Korean and Japanese martial arts, so those are very much different as far as how they approach striking and kicking and that kind of thing, whereas Kung Fu is a little bit different. So those just meshed more well with my theory. So there's that. Okay. So page 3, we'll talk about mindset. The key to surviving or thriving in a stressful situation, you got to remain calm. As crazy as things are, if you lose your head and you panic, 9 times out of 10, that makes the situation that much more difficult for you to handle, and it could actually make a bad situation worse. I mean, you've seen it, somebody else, you know, the classic, you know, yell fire in a theater and everybody freaks out and runs to the exit and winds up trampling some people because, okay, there's a fire, but if it's not in the room with you, okay, you need to calm down. Say, okay, well, nobody said where the fire was, so let's just go to the exit. And you do, you know, the fire safety, you check the door, is it hot? You check the handle, is it hot? You know, is there smoke? You know, that kind of thing. Same type of deal in a situation like that. You know, if you're in a place and, you know, there's a terrorist attack, there's a shooting, you know, an earthquake, anything, just don't panic. Keep your head about you. And some people are kind of born with a mentality of when something happens, they're just kind of normally calm. But that's not to say that people that tend to panic or get excited easily by those things can't get to a level where they're not panicked. And I'm not saying that you're not going to feel adrenaline, you're not going to feel, you know, a sense of excitement and urgency based on the situation that you're in. It's just normal. But how you react with that is very important. So just keep that mindset of, yeah, things may be getting bad or there may be an awful situation going on, but I want to make sure that I'm calm and I react appropriately. Because if you're panicking, you know, and I'm just saying, oh, you know, there was a gunshot, I'm taking off, and I'm like, bye guys. I'm like, well, that's not fair to you. What if the gunman's back there and none of you see him because you're all facing me talking? Because you're putting a certain level of trust in me that I'm up here that I'm going to have your back. You know, I'm not saying that I'm going to like sprint back there and, you know, take a bullet for you while you're all running. I mean, that wouldn't be smart either. But, you know, I can say, hey guys, there's something going on back here. Let's get out of here. You know, and then, you know, you figure out what's the best thing to do. But, you know, for me to panic and just take off running, you're going, where's he going? He took off like his butt's on fire. And then you're all sitting here like, you know, and then next thing you know, it's like there's somebody behind you acting stupid and you had no idea. And I could have told you 5 to 10 seconds sooner and, you know, you could have reacted. So, got those kind of things. Now, at this point, we're going to kind of break off into a different section, but are there any questions, situations, scenarios that anybody would like to bring up or talk about any of the stuff that we've covered so far? No? Cool. So either I'm doing a great job or I'm boring you. I got a thumbs up, so that means I'm doing an all right job. Good, good, good. All right, social media. We all love our social media. We all use different things depending on the polls. It tells you if you're a certain age demographic, you're more to the Instagram, Twitter side. And if you're another demographic, you're more the Facebook side. Regardless of who or what you are, as far as your preference towards social media, we want to make sure that you use it safely and responsibly. So, you know, I tend to not have my feeds open to everybody. I have to accept friends. I do have some business ones that I'm like, I don't care, they're public, but I only post business stuff there. I don't post any personal information there. But my personal ones, I only let people in that I trust and know. And that goes for all of them. I mean, I've got just about all of them. So one of the big things that I noticed that a lot of people do, and you just don't think about it. I'm not saying that you're a bad person. Don't think you're a bad person for doing this if you've done it. But if you've got teenagers at home and say you go on vacation or you're going out of town for a weekend on whatever, say you have a conference or you've got a work thing and you're going to be on an overnight Friday night through Saturday, and you are saying, hey, I'm going to be about 3 hours away, and your kid's 14, 15 years old and she's home by herself. Okay, I'm not going to go 3 or 4 hours away. Hey guys, look, I'm 3 or 4 hours away. Click and have a public profile. And then somebody says, oh, you know, when they look up your house and going, oh, that person lives at so-and-so, because I looked it up in the state of Ohio's directory for homeowners, and they figured out where you live, and they're like, oh, you know, and then your daughter's going, oh, I really wish I was with you guys, but I'm home here alone. I hope you have a great time. Okay, now you've just told the entire world that's willing to look at your social media page that you're 3 hours away and you've got a teenage daughter at home by herself. Generally not the best thing to do. But I'm not telling you can't put those kind of things up, but we try to wait until we get home and then say, hey, we were at this thing on the weekend, check out all this cool stuff. You know, again, a lot less risk if your social media is locked down to, like, if it was all you people in this room and I said, hey, I'm going out of town, I bet you probably 2 or 3 of you would go, well, you know what, I know they're going out of town, there's not going to be anybody home. If I'm on that side of town, I'll probably drive by their house and look and see if I see anything weird going on. You know, it's like, hey, why's their front door open? There shouldn't be anybody there. And I've actually had a neighbor do that, where our front door was open and they called us up when we were on vacation and said, hey, do you know I saw a strange guy walk into your house. And I'm like, well, describe what he looked like and what car he had. Like, oh, that was cause I forgot to tell her. She lived across the street. Like, oh, that was our neighbor, he's house sitting. So he came over to get our mail and, you know, check all that kind of stuff. And she's like, oh, okay. She goes, I just wanted to make sure. I'm like, I appreciate it. So, you know, but when we were out of town on that instance, we actually happened to be in the Outer Banks for a week. And I was like, okay, you know, if I put stuff like that on social media, then it'd been like, hey, there's a free house open, you know, for a week. You know, you got squatters in there, you got people, you know, robbing your house, all kinds of stuff. You just don't want that kind of thing. So do your best to kind of keep your location as far as, you know, hey, I'm out of town. I mean, if you're out at Easton or whatever, or even if you're out in the Outer Banks, you say, hey, I'm at the beach or whatever, and you happen to live by a, you know, Buckeye Lake. I mean, that's not that far away. If Buckeye Lake was still what it was, you know, 2 years ago, people were like, oh, they're just out Buckeye Lake, so it's no big deal, you know, not that far away. So just be aware of those kind of things. The other thing I'd like to bring up is cell phones. We all love our cell phones, but when you're out, especially when you're by yourself, try not to be so engrossed in your phone that you're not aware of what's going on. Now, I'm not saying don't check your phone. What I'm saying is don't be sitting here, maybe you're waiting for the bus or something, and you're sitting here, and for 15 minutes you're just this, and there could be God knows what and who knows what walking past, things happen, and you just got no idea what's going on. And at the very minimum, if you're standing on a busy street and somebody loses control of their car and you're not paying attention, you're going to be sitting here going, "Oh, I wonder what, how good this bacon wrapped shrimp tastes" on Facebook, and next thing you know, you're plowed over. What I tend to do is especially, I believe in a buddy system anyway. So when I go places, I tend to try not go by myself, just because if I'm doing something, like if I'm taking pictures or if I'm having to go somewhere or do something that's going to take my attention away from what's going on around me, then I have someone else help me with that. So, if my wife decides like, hey, I need to check Facebook for something real quick because somebody's posted something that I think, is going to take some time, then I put my phone away and I'm watching, and then she's on her phone, and then I can say, hey, there's somebody, even if it's something that's like, common courtesy, she's standing in the middle of the sidewalk and she's checking something real quick, and I'm like, oh, there's somebody coming, so I'll just kind of push her, so she knows to kind of move to the side, and stuff like that. So just don't let your phone consume so much of your attention that you're losing sight of what's around you, so that you don't lose that situational awareness. Right. Page 4. Home safety. Just a couple basic things. Most people probably already do this anyway. I mean, especially if you're a homeowner, one of the things you do is not only you want your house to look great, but you also take measures to secure, the things that you've, worked hard for, and the people that, you live with, and you want to make sure that they're safe. You don't want to leave your blinds open all the time, so especially at night. If you're watching TV, depending on how your living room's situated and where it's, it's directed, not saying close yourself up like a hermit, but, definitely, you want to, when you're going to sleep or whatever, keep your blinds closed so that people can't see in at night when you're, trying to, be, feeling safe and secure. If you can, do the best you can to make your house look like you are home when you're not at home. There are, timers that you can put on lights. We have like a timer on our TV, so like when we go to bed, there's a timer that I set, so it randomly goes off between 1 to 3 hours or whatever. So it's a little secret. So don't sneak up on me now. But if I go to sleep, I leave the TV on. So if somebody's walking past the house, they're gonna like, oh, the TV's still on. It's like, oh, they're probably still up. And so you got that kind of going on. If you can get an alarm system, feel free to get one. We had one for the longest time. It didn't really like, because the one we got was kind of janky, but as long as you get a decent one, you don't have to necessarily always get the ones that have the live two-way voice thing. Those are kind of nice to have, so that if something happens, that you can just literally yell at somebody and say, hey, call 911 for me, or hey, I need an ambulance, all that kind of stuff. But as far as security and safety goes, an alarm system will help you be more aware sooner if there's a situation at your home. Plus, it's also very loud, and nobody wants to draw attention to themselves, so you kind of, at least that as a minimum, have that going for you. The other thing I like are dogs. I just love dogs anyway. Happen to have 3 right now, and a leaf blows past the sidewalk some days and they activate and they just start barking and going crazy. But 99% of the time they're pretty accurate as far as there's somebody's in our driveway, somebody's coming up to the door, and they're going off, even in the middle of the night. So we tend to have that going on too. Plus, you have the fact that most people don't know what the sound of a small dog or a big dog sounds like, other than some bass to it. But nobody really wants to get bit by any dog. So, the fact that you're aware, and the fact that they know that if they're going to come into this house, they are probably going to have somebody that's awake now, and they have a dog to deal with. It's a deterrent that is great for you, stinks for them. So basically, it's a win-win for you. So you got that. Got one down here. Know the laws in your area. So every state has different things. They have castle doctrines where, if you are in your home, you don't have to retreat if someone comes in, breaks into your home, you have the right to use whatever force necessary to protect yourself and your family. When you're out, make sure that you understand, is Ohio a state where you have to retreat, or is it a stand your ground state? Just make sure you understand that, and just realize that even if you are 100% right in doing whatever you're doing, you're going to get questioned. And depending on who you had to defend yourself against, their family may try to take you to civil court and do all kinds of stuff. I know there's the USCCA, I think it is, the U.S. Concealed Carry Association. They've got liability insurance that you go through them, and they help defend you against a situation where you may have to use a weapon to protect yourself. But just be aware of things that have happened in the state, and it's funny because Derek and I had this conversation about a week ago where the old saying is you would rather be judged by 12 than carried by 6. So you'd rather be judged in a court versus being carried down the aisle for your pallbearers. So, I mean, I'm not saying just willy-nilly go out and open fire, but if it's one of those situations where it's either you or them, I'd rather have 12 other people tell me that I was wrong for doing what I was doing than to not hear it at all. So that's just me. So you make that distinction, the decision for yourself. Landscaping on your home, you want to make sure that while your landscaping looks beautiful, you don't want to have something that blocks your windows or gives somebody a place to hide. You don't want to have it so that it's in such a way that if someone's trying to break in, that they can't be seen. You don't want to make it easy for them. So have bushes, have your flowers, have whatever you want, but if they get a little too tall and they start covering your windows, just get out there and lop them down, do whatever you got to do, just to make sure that you're not, making a criminal's job easier. Anything for this section? No, all good? I don't think I've talked this much forever. Okay, this next section is called When Out. We already kind of touched on the buddy system, not just for swimming. If you plan to go out, go in groups, or at a minimum take one other person with you. Not only does it keep you from getting bored, but you also have someone else to watch your back for you. Let's see, here we go. Actually, my daughter brought this one up, pumping gas, because she's always had issues with, she doesn't feel comfortable when she's pumping gas. And she's got a little bit of social anxiety anyway, so when there's people just kind of whizzing by, she kind of gets a little antsy. Pumping gas is hard because a lot of people tend to, they swipe their card, hit the thing, put the pump in, they sit there on their phone for the 2 minutes or whatever it takes, and they're just not paying attention. What I tend to do is, if, say I pulled into the pump and you've got the pump here in front of you and you've got your car back here, what people tend to do is they pull the pump nozzle out, they do their thing back here, and they put their nozzle in. So now you've got the car behind you, you got this here, and you got this cord in front of you, and then you've got all this room here. So if somebody came in this way to come at you, okay, you're kind of stuck. And if you want to go this way, you got to jump over this thing, and you may not be, as athletic as you need to be, so then you trip over that thing, and you're just having an issue. Real simple thing is, instead of using this, stand on the other side of it, and then stand behind your car. So now it's pumping, you're still, a gas station, they don't want you to leave it unattended, so you're still there in case, the nozzle sticks on and it's, spewing gas out or whatever, the automatic shut off doesn't work. But now you've got yourself in a situation where you're able to get out wherever you need to get, and you're not stuck. You didn't trap yourself into a situation. So you don't want to do that. That's just one of my tips for doing that. Don't leave your keys in your car. There's been a lot of, not around here, but I've just seen videos where there have been people, they leave their keys in their car, their purse sitting in their car, and they're sitting there pumping gas and they're not paying attention. And they've got people sneak in and open up their doors and steal their purses, carjack their cars, don't want that to happen to you. So I tend to always take my keys with me, and then if I know that I'm you know, like even if after, you know, I pump the gas, I'm like, oh, I want to go get a soda from the convenience store there, I'm locking it up. Don't leave anything out that looks, valuable. There's two thoughts on that. My car, I like to kind of keep as clean as possible. My wife is completely different. She makes it look like there's, a bomb went off.
I live in it.
And yeah. Well, I always joke and I say it's kind of like the Breakfast Club when she dumps her purse out and he's like, why do you have all this stuff in your bag? And she's like, you never know when you may have to jam. And that's kind of her thing. She's like, you never know when you may have to go somewhere and you might need that potato. I'm like, oh, okay. I mean, I know you're Irish and all, but you don't have to live the stereotype. But I mean, there is something to that. I mean, if you're sitting there looking around in somebody's car and they're like, oh man, this thing's junked up, I ain't gonna go through all that. But if it's not junked up and you've got a purse sitting there and it looks like you got a wallet and some electronics and stuff in there, like, quick smash and grab.
So when Aaron says something about my car being junky, I'll be like, Andy said, this is the best way to keep people.
Well, and there's video proof too, so tell them to watch the YouTube video at 41 minutes, and then he'll get it, so. What we got there? Okay, so we covered those. So when you're getting into your car, so a lot of people when they go to their car, well, you know what, let's do this backwards. When you're parking, park somewhere where it's well lit and you're not parking next to a place where it's an easy ambush, like next to, so a lot of parking lots have bush hedges that run along the sides. So you'll park your car there and there's, a hedge there and somebody could, use that to conceal themselves. Don't want any of that. But yeah, definitely you want to park somewhere where there's decent lighting. A lot of I know like down on campus and a lot of the higher end parking lots and stuff will have the emergency buttons in there. So, and they're normally well lit over there too because they've got their own light plus lights in the garages or whatever. So, park next to those so that you have easy access to emergency services and that you can see what's going on. Before you unlock your car, and I know this is difficult sometimes because when you pull into a spot, like a lot of the new cars, when I put my car in park, it automatically unlocks the doors. And when I put it in drive or reverse, it automatically locks them. So before you put the car in park and you're sitting in your spot, check your mirrors, look around, make sure, nobody's approaching your car. I mean, I've had, even at the gas station, you're pulling up to the pump and I got people rushing up to the door going, hey man, you got $1. I'm like, okay, I'm just pull out. I'm like, I don't know what you're here for. I mean, you may want $1, but I don't know. But if they're running up to you like that before you even get kind of stopped, it's a little sketchy. So, again, trust your instincts. Going, it doesn't feel right. I'd rather just go to the gas station across the street or down, another mile and not have to deal with it. Again, I'm not saying don't help people. I mean, help people, but there's a right way if somebody needs help for them to come and ask for help versus a wrong way to do it that looks sketchy. So then when you're getting into your car, make sure you have your keys and things ready. I know there's a tendency for, especially if you're talking with somebody, if you have stuff in your purse or in your bag. I carry a backpack, sometimes I throw my keys in there, and you just don't think about it, it depends on your car too, because my car, when I'm within like a foot of it, I can just hit a button on the thing, and as long as the keys are within a foot of the car, I can unlock it. But if you've got one with the key fob where you have to use your key to unlock it, have your keys out and have them ready. The bonus of that too is that you also have yourself a makeshift weapon. You put your keys. A lot of people will buy like they call them the Kubotan keychains. They're like the black bars, and they have the two spikes that come up through your. So you have that, as a weapon if you need it. So you want to make sure you have all that. Again, don't want to harp on the phone thing, but it's just something we all tend to do from time to time. When you're going to your car, don't be, looking at your phone. Be kind of looking. I mean, if you need to check something on your phone, get in your car, lock the doors, check it real quick. And as you're checking it, make sure you're still looking around. You just don't want to be a victim. If people think that you're not paying attention. Let's see here. Some people have a tendency to unlock their car from like 20 feet away because they can. I mean, it's really cool that we can sit over here and like lock and unlock my car from like the other end of the parking lot, but don't sit there going, well, I got my hands full, so I'll unlock it now, and I'm not even in eyesight of the car, you know, and I'm like, oh, okay. You know, I get over there and then, you know, somebody could have been in your car, be in your car, doing stuff to your car. You don't want that to happen, so. And then again, when you're at your car, you know, even when you're loading stuff up, you know, be very efficient, load your things into your car, you know, then get in your car, you know, don't dilly-dally around, especially if it's busy or, you know, if you're not in a good neighborhood, or even if you're in a neighborhood you're not aware, you know, you're not comfortable with or familiar with. So any questions or stories, comments, anecdotes about that?
For the keys, I was always taught to walk with them like this, like to be ready with the keys.
Yep.
Sticking out the left hand,
Mhm.
to get to your car.
Yeah.
And always have like a hand free, like so no,
Yep.
always lock it,
Yep.
especially when you're alone.
Yep. Yeah, see, that's the thing though, is with my keys, this is the key.
Yeah.
So it's like, okay, I got my house key, I guess. That's not as impressive as what Tree's got though.
You can just use this thing.
Yeah, just use like a bolo, trip people. You'll take an eye out.
It used to be a lot longer, I had to
Yeah.
take keys off on this.
Yeah. So,
I think the other thing, going back to at home and stuff.
uh-huh,
Here, especially in the summertime, because it's warm and hot out, you got the garage
yeah,
and stuff. You know, that's what they case it out, what you have in the garage.
yeah,
You hear a lot of stories about bicycles and lawnmowers and stuff getting stolen and taken. So I think that's something we have to be, what we do, we have it open, you know, open it so far.
Yeah.
To maybe when you get to the bumpers of the car,
Mhm.
really we can't see everything.
Yeah.
And stuff.
And just for those that are gonna watch this video later, the point was brought up about not leaving your garage door open. And if you do wanna keep it open to like vent some of the heat or whatever out from the garage, just kinda crack it. I know like, our garage door has a button on it for like pets, so it only opens like a foot. So that's kind of a, you know, if you have that option, you just wanna vent a little bit, just hit the pet button and it just pops open like a foot, and then you hit the button again and it goes down. So, that's a good point. So does anybody else have anything?
I think my biggest issue, not like the awareness part, is where I'm from, everybody goes to small town, everybody knew everybody.
Mhm.
We never even locked our house,
Right.
so I'm kind of naive when it comes to all that, because I just trust everybody.
Mhm.
And, I mean, I'm much more, I mean, since in the last 12 years, I've been living here, I've been a little less that
Yeah.
way, but still, it's hard for me.
Yeah, I mean, it's, like I said earlier on, it's something that, I mean, it'll become, I don't want you to all think that, okay, now that I'm gonna go out, every time I go out, I have to. Look, when you first start doing it, you know, be aware of it and actually do it intentionally and say like, you know, when you walk in here, it's like you knew where that entrance was, but if you didn't know, I mean, when we were waiting, for like the first 5 minutes and I walked out, I actually did a loop around just to say, okay, where are all the doors at? I mean, I kind of knew where they were. I just wanted to make sure that, okay, you know, I wasn't going to say, oh, there's one here and one over in that corner and be completely wrong, but at least, you know, I knew where. So, you know, so when you first got here, you can say, hey, you know, I'm here, but I'm just gonna take a loop, you know, that kind of thing. But yeah, there's nothing, after you do it for a while, it's like sometimes I'll sit down and like we'll go to a restaurant and I'll ask Danny, I'll say, hey, I said, where are the entrances at? And now she's like rattling them off. She's like, oh, there's one there, one there, one over there. Where are the bathrooms at? Does anybody in here look sketchy? I'm like, no, they look all right. All right. But it,
One of the balances is how can you still go enjoy yourself?
yeah,
But you so, lack of a better term, wrapped up in where everything is, you find out you're not enjoying
yeah,
where you're at, because you keep looking out, you miss the fun, or the,
mhm,
whatever the purpose of you going out. Because for some, the anxiety is so high, like, I gotta see where the door is, who came in here, then you miss the,
yeah.
you know, so it's a balance.
Yeah, and again, like I was saying, is at first when you try to get into the mindset, do it on purpose, but then after a while it'll become such second nature that you'll just start seeing things, and the anxiety won't be there that you're missing things. As far as like the enjoyment of the event or the party that you're at, it'll be more of, it's like, no issues with anybody in here, the door's been closed, everything's fine, it's quiet out there, I mean, getting ready to close up, it's 8, 9 o'clock, So when things become second nature, it's like, then that part of it is going to be less enjoyable and a little more anxiety ridden at first. And some of the stuff you're going to realize that you did anyway. It's just you didn't put like a structure or naming around it. Like Shannon was saying, she's a very people person, so she tends to people watch. So her strength in understanding the people and how the relationships in the room are working is going to come very natural to her, and that's not something that, I mean, she could probably walk out to the library and tell you that, this kid's probably got, some anxiety, and this kid, is, probably the life of every party, and like this guy over here, she could probably tell you their personality just by observing them for a couple of seconds. Whereas if I said, hey, where are all the exits and entrances and that kind of thing, she'd probably have to work a little more on that to get that. Whereas, I was the exact opposite. I actually had to go out and people watch on purpose and start understanding people, better and understanding how like their interactions are. And I mean, it's helped a lot. I mean, especially like with my photography, I bring this up a lot is I shoot weddings and receptions. And then when I used to go to the receptions, I was always kind of like, when I first started shooting them, I'm like, I just don't know what to do here. And then something would happen. I'm like, oh man, I missed that. Oh, I missed that. And then I started taking some online classes and some seminars from some other photographers, and they were street photographers, and they were like, just go out and take pictures of people, and like, but before you put the camera up, just start looking at people and understanding what they're doing and how they're interacting. And then all of a sudden you start seeing that, well, hey, she's smiling, but there's nobody else around her. Like, why is she happy? And then you look this way and you're like, oh, there's somebody she knows. And the next thing you know, they're walking toward each other. I'm like, oh, that's going to be a great moment. Because, and you can tell just, like, oh, they started kind of running toward each other. So either they haven't seen each other in a while or something really awesome's happened and they got to tell each other. So I don't care what the reason is. I know something awesome's going to happen. So I already have the camera up, and then boom, sure enough. So then you can translate that into, okay, when I'm at the receptions, you see people that maybe haven't seen each other in 5 or 15 years because they live out of the country or they live across the country. And this is their one time out of the 15 years they get to see each other, and they're just so happy. And, and you can't always get that information from, the people that, you're working for at the event. So, you just kind of have to pick that up on your own. But then you can, start translating those kind of things into, well, people's body languages and how they're reacting out there and how they're interacting with other people. And, it's kind of weird that somebody that you look at them and say, they got, they're all done up tonight and they just seem like they're sitting off the corner somewhere. It's like, why is that? They don't look right. So, I mean, it could be nothing. It could be just, they just got dumped or, they just found out that their car just got totaled outside and they're sad, or it could be that they're, debating whether or not, to commit suicide or kill somebody. You don't know, but something's not right. So you tend to kind of give that a little more attention, and if you're a godly person and you sit there and say, you know what, I prayed on it and I really think that person needs to be talked to. I mean, that's generally not me. I'm not putting myself out there like that. I'm not that kind of people person, but Danny is. You all know Danny, and sure enough, we could go on endlessly about stories of her seeing people that are struggling and just going, God's telling me I got to talk to them. So there she goes, and never one of them was a regret, But that's something that I struggle with and I have to work on, and someday I can only pray that I can get to be as second natured about helping people that way that she is, But, I may never get that far. It may not be my strength, I don't know. But it's something that I can work on. I can always do better on it. Just like with these things, it's we're not asking you to be, You're not coming out of this, with, this 6 pages and going, all right, I've got this stuff mastered. No one will ever sneak up on me. I'll never get carjacked. I'll never get into a fight because I've got all this stuff down because I took one class. This is just more of, okay, now you've got these things and where your strengths and your weaknesses are and where do I now need to concentrate, to make these things second nature. And then once they become second nature, it just becomes a part of who you are and what you do. So that's about all I had. So like I said, if anybody else has anything else they'd like to talk about or say or do, I'm more than willing to field any questions or have a discussion amongst all of us, because we've all had life experiences and we can always learn from each other. So, but if not, we're good then. And then next week, it's probably going to be Monday. I don't know exactly where yet. It might be at a park if the weather is good, but we'll do some fighting. Some basics of punching, kicking, striking, some effective things. Yeah. Well, the next 2 weeks. Because week 3, one of you lucky people gets to throw me. Or multiples of you get to throw me. Throw me. I can't have you throwing each other because that would be all wrong. Unless you've done it to each other before, then you're all more than welcome to throw each other around. But I figure if I get hurt, that's on me. It's my problem. I don't want to hurt anybody else. But, all right, cool. Well, thank you.
Thank you.
And you'll have my email and everything, so